Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We will now begin. Thank you so much for joining us today. We already had a few questions about it on the chats. To answer it to everyone, yes, we will be sending a recording as well as a PDF of this webinar right after. And today we are releasing this second report, our Trends and Behavior of the COVID Consumer from Heuritech Instagram Analysis. Just a few notes before we begin. So I have my camera turned on now, but I will turn it off and everyone of the presenter as well, so that you can focus on the content. And we will put it back on at the end for our Q&A session. So as I said, today we'll be discussing the impact of COVID-19 on consumer behavior, as well as sharing some exclusive insights about trends in China, US, and Europe, from research conducted by our data scientists and fashion experts. My name is Célia Poncelin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of the company, and today I will be joined by Julie Pont, our Creative Director and Trend Analyst, as well as Mélanie Mollard, our Fashion Content Manager. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can answer it in the chat session, and we will have a Q&A session at the end to make sure that we answer to all of your questions. Many of you are familiar with Heuritech, but for those of you who are not, I just wanted to reintroduce what we do. As Vogue put it, Heuritech has turned social media into an artificial intelligence tool that predicts the development of trends. Each day, we analyze millions of images on social media to understand what consumer wants today and forecast future trends. We have developed an in-house image recognition technology, which scans millions of images. And with forecasting algorithm, we can predict trends up to 1 year in advance and how they will evolve. Before we begin the outline of this webinar, just a special message about the solidarity program that we just launched for small to medium brands that are affected by COVID-19. For the next 6 months, for a selected number of companies, we will be providing free data as well as trends reports to help fashion businesses. So if you feel that you can join our program, you can apply on our website. The link is just below, and we look forward to hearing from you and helping during this difficult time. The agenda of today will focus on, first, consumer behaviors by looking at the ways consumer habits have changed, then consumer attitudes on Instagram, and finally, top trends in China, Europe, and the US, to understand which fashion trends are emerging as a result of this period. Yet the question you may be asking yourself right now is how to forecast trends in a post-COVID world. Of course, in a time where everything is really uncertain, it's hard to predict the future. However, trend forecasting is increasingly important as consumer behavior and desires are shifting as a result of the pandemic, now more than ever. Brands are focused on their post-COVID strategies, and according to BCGs, companies deploying AI will be the one that recover faster from this period. Why artificial intelligence now? Because it has the unique capability to understand sudden change in consumer behavior and detect early signals to adapt quickly to demands everywhere in the world. The consulting group BCG surveyed a list of companies and found that most of them are so far taken reactive measures. AI presents just the opposite, proactive measures. Consumers are already doing it by supporting sustainable practices, self-care, and virtual alternatives. Just look at what's happening in China digital boom. So they're ahead of the curves in many ways. Fashion brands can take a similar jump with AI in providing consumers with the trends they desire, even before the consumer himself knows it. Furthermore, AI is a big ally to optimize cost and reduce uncertainty in a time where it is more important than ever. BCG has analyzed that 50% of fashion forecasting errors could be avoided with AI. In its latest report, The Rise of the AI-Powered Company in the Post-Crisis World, that I warmly invite you to read. Reducing cost is at the moment a burning topic for many brands, and there is also where AI can help. Heuritech's take during this period is to optimize overstock to keep margins, build profitable future collections with relevant products and just the right amount of stock, and increase e-commerce revenue, the main sales channels right now. I will now leave the room to my colleague Melanie to deep dive into consumer behavior and to see how we can answer to these topics.
So to best apply these advantages that my colleague Celia has just laid out for you all, knowledge of one's consumer base is equally important. As such, we've collected data from fashion publications and researchers such as Business of Fashion and, as previously mentioned, BCG, in order to understand the nuance of different consumer bases and why. In China versus in Europe and the US, these places have experienced a different trajectory of COVID-19. While China has been dealing with the virus since January, Europe and the US have only been dealing with it seriously since late February. And all three places have dealt with this situation differently. China enacted a fairly immediate lockdown with strict measures, while Europe and the US came later with different lockdown measures, depending on the country and state. As it stands today, Europe and the US are in what we describe as stage 1, the cautious stage, because confinement is still in place, and as a result, consumers are still largely in crisis mode. Stage 2, on the other hand, is what we like to describe as revenge spending, and this is what we are currently observing in China. Deconfinement means store reopenings and the gradual return to normal life. And figures indicate that the average Chinese consumer is eager to resume pre-pandemic consumption. So put simply, we can consider that China is in the recovery process, while Europe and the US still do have some time to go. So let's divulge more on these two stages. According to estimates from the Business of Fashion and McKinsey & Company, online sales have declined 5 to 20% across Europe, 30 to 40% in the US, and 15 to 25% in China. And the apparel market in particular is expected to take a harder hit than others. So these numbers are to say that yes, while we do see decreases everywhere, not everywhere is at the same leg of the race. These differences in numbers could serve as a crystal ball for consumer spending at different stages of the pandemic, which is a hopeful indicator of the resumption of the fashion industry. Another survey by Numerator in early March of American consumers found that 3 in 4 were concerned about the virus, even before quarantine measures began. And the same survey indicated that COVID-19 had already begun to impact the shopping behavior of 1 in 3 American consumers in early March. A survey from Morning Consult conducted in mid-April found that a quarter of American respondents did not think they would feel comfortable at a mall for more than 6 months, which is a fair indicator of the uncertainty of this period and for so many consumers in stage 1. And like the average American, European consumers are cautious too, even as governments across Europe are currently planning step-by-step reopenings. Austrian fashion journalist Lisa Zerngas told Vogue Business, "We are all looking forward to returning to our normal lives again, but we would rather have the measures for a little bit longer just to make sure the situation doesn't escalate." In Austria, malls and department stores are scheduled to open starting May 1st, for example. In Germany, larger retail stores started reopening on May 4th, and in France, they will start on May 11th. The question is how many people the reopenings will draw in, and how eager people will be to spend on apparel. Luckily though, China is a glimmer of hope for the rest of the industry right now. Because they are lifting or have lifted lockdown, depending on the region, the average Chinese consumer is eager to indulge in luxury and fashion after months without. For example, speaking for the company's first quarter earnings on April 16th, LVMH Chief Financial Officer stated, quote, "We have seen substantial growth rates, sometimes in excess of 50% for the large brands. So it shows the appetite of Chinese people after 2 months of lockdown to go back to stores and come back to their previous pattern of consumption," end quote. And to prove his statement, it seems, an Hermes store recently sold goods for $2.7 million upon its reopening, as a plethora of affluent clients made their purchases digitally visible across platforms like Weibo and WeChat. And since the beginning of the pandemic, e-commerce has seen a 3% increase in China. Jeff Unza, president of strategic partnerships at BorderX Lab, a platform that connects American and European e-commerce like Saks Fifth Avenue, with Chinese consumers says, "We thought our sales were going to fall off a cliff at the height of the COVID scare in China, but instead we saw some pretty good growth, with sales up 50 to 70% over that time." In response to these positive numbers, it would appear, China's Ministry of Commerce posted an announcement recently about a new online shopping festival, which will feature 100 e-commerce companies that will run from April 28th to May 10th. It seems that the Chinese government is placing hope of economic recovery and domestic consumption, as Europe and the US will soon come out of lockdown. So it's quite fortunate to see that Chinese consumers seem pretty optimistic. In a report by McKinsey & Company, expected future spending is positive, with spending on footwear and apparel expected to drop by only 0 to 15% in the weeks to come. As we've seen though, European and US consumers are notably less optimistic than their Chinese counterparts, reflecting on their likelihood to spend less even online. Both are expected to spend 50% less than usual on footwear and apparel in the weeks to come. So now that we have a better understanding of the different behaviors among consumers, we can deep dive into how it is reflected through consumer attitudes. With Heuritech's own analysis from Instagram, we can understand how COVID-19 has changed the way we express ourselves on social media. So while overall optimism has taken an effect on consumer spending, what's even more interesting is where consumers are spending more of their time: Instagram. The platform has seen an increase in traffic of 70% since the start of widespread confinement. And since January, at the first apparition of #coronavirus, the hashtag now stands at a total of 20 million posts. This is one of the fastest growths in popularity of a hashtag ever, indicating the relevance and buzz the topic possesses on social media. People turn to Instagram to express themselves, in confinement now more than ever. So let's take a look at what everyone is saying on the matter and how fashion fits into Corona talk on Instagram. Heuritech set out to determine how exactly #coronavirus has progressed on the platform since the beginning of the pandemic. To begin with, the hashtag is 3 times more popular than #COVID-19, which makes sense considering the #coronavirus has been around since January, while #COVID-19 only has been since the beginning of March. Plus, the #coronavirus has consistently increased since January, by 6 times in the first 2 weeks of March alone. And while the topic has been slowly decreasing since its peak in March, it's only to make room for other, more positive topics, which we will elaborate upon shortly. Yet we have to ask ourselves, are people on Instagram really interested in fashion right now? Well, we found that 28% of posts are indeed related to fashion in a multitude of different ways: to promote an outfit, to share fashion projects, to show off one's quarantine look, or even to experiment with DIYs. Fashion can provide an escape from reality in a way that is creative and social online. And we wanted to see how exactly people are relating fashion to confinement in their own ways and by embracing which trends. At Heuritech, we are able to recognize precisely in images if a specific luxury product is present in any post shared on social media. So, are influencers and users posting casual indoor looks featuring less luxury products? Or are they still getting dressed up? Or are they posting old outfit photos to entertain their community of followers? To answer, the visibility of luxury products on social media has decreased by 40%, while quarantine-related posts are on the rise. The blue curve in the graph represents the evolution of the number of posts on which our technology visually detected luxury bags and shoes since January 2020. We clearly see a drop in the number of posts in March with the implementation of lockdown policies by countries. The shift in focus from Instagram users, and therefore the type of content they share, is pretty obvious when looking at this steep rise in posts using a quarantine-related hashtag that my colleague Julie will now present to you.
To go more further, and as we said earlier, we indeed looked at the other most popular hashtags during this period beyond simply hashtag coronavirus and hashtag COVID-19. To do this, we quantified their popularity in volume, meaning their presence on Instagram among the posts we ourselves analyzed. The percentages represent their amount out of the total posts analyzed by Heuritech. For example, hashtag stay home had the biggest presence on Instagram with a 3.4% of posts analyzed, followed by hashtag quarantine and hashtag TBT and hashtag healthy lifestyle. We noted that topics related to confinement, such as hashtag stay home and hashtag stay safe, are widely used by users to show their involvement in fighting the spread of the virus. Sports-related hashtags are also standing out, like hashtag yoga and hashtag home workouts, highlighting the willingness to keep an healthy lifestyle in spite of the circumstances. On the other hand, social media keeps proving its entertainment power with posts of nostalgic pictures accompanied by the hashtag TBT, meaning Throwback Thursdays. And beyond the popularity of certain hashtags among consumers, the evolution in popularity of these hashtags related to the current crisis and confinement has been growing at a very fast pace over the last weeks. For example, our analysis indicates that the number of posts with the hashtag coronavirus-19 grew by 81% compared to the period before March 25. Interestingly enough, hashtag coronavirus-19 seems to have become a new way to talk about the virus. The mentions related to confinement are on the rise too, showing that people want to stay active in their social sharing while staying safe at home. Hashtags such as hashtag quarantine life and hashtag together at home indicate that many people are getting used to life in confinement, while hashtags such as hashtag COVID workouts show that many are letting go their non-pandemic habits. Through what we have seen emerging on Instagram, we have questioned how these new tagging habits translate concretely into fashion. Thanks to the research of our fashion teams and the analysis of our data scientists, we have picked trends representative of the general mood of consumers. With so many in confinement around the world, Instagram is indeed revelatory of people experiencing a surplus of time they've never before had. With this time, consumers in Europe and the US are translating their feelings of uncertainty and caution into a newfound focus on mental health. In other words, self-care. Beauty products, entertainment, and comfortable apparel has gone up in consumers' purchases, as has sportswear for those who have taken up at-home workouts, for instance. In China, consumers are increasingly deconfined and more optimistic, which helps to explain the revenge spending phenomenon. We look forward to seeing what look they will be showing off to reflect this attitude in these next few months. Sorry. So what do these behavioral trends mean for clothing trends? What does optimism look like? This summer, Chinese consumers are embracing bold style choices to express their post-lockdown joy. With an array of color including the electric blue and vibrant red, other styles such as sequins will pop on the streets. Nothing says brand pride more than obvious logos. Shoppers will be showing off big or repeated logos from their favorite brands, often inspired by consumer and calls on popular social media platforms. Popular aesthetics are big, bold text on garments. On the other hand, sequins evoke celebration. Think New Year's party and glamorous nights out. What's more worthy of being celebrated than the end of this pandemic? Further reflecting the eagerness felt by so many Chinese consumers during this time, bright colors are sure to make a statement in the months to come. Many Chinese fashion designers such as Anja Chan or Christine Lowe, already play with the lively colors. And it seems the trend will reach the mainstream as a result of this post-pandemic optimism, with pop colors like yellow, red, even orange. Furthermore, so as a result, this mentality is being reflected in fashion. So the top trends in following few months will echo this reluctance to step out and behave in the same way as the pre-pandemic, but with toned down styles. We perhaps think that more positively, the self-care trend and healthy behaviors in general will also come through certain trends this summer, with activewear, for instance. And we noticed as well romantic spring garments expressing some kind of softness research. So to go next slide, shared between refined minimalism and signature form, the trend for European and American consumers stand out for their sobriety and their search for comfort, as I said. So we can find ample shapes, soft colors, romantic cuts, and kind of seek to softness and comfort. Despite the confinement, the great classics of spring are there. And we can notice soft pastels and flower prints. Let's continue with the colors and pastels. Pastel will be popular in the coming month, most notably in the pastel blue and duster pink, to echo soothing consumer activities such as, for instance, meditation during this confinement. Pastel blue and purple will both experience, for example, an increase of 5% compared to summer 2019. As kind of opposite or contrary, gray is equally a major trend, an interesting color choice for this sunny season. Finally, we will see earth tone much like during this year's Fall-Winter 20 fashion month with khaki and beige. Beige will see a plus 8% increase in Europe this summer versus 2019, and khaki will see an increase of 5% in Europe and 15% in the US. As I said earlier, regarding the patterns, and despite consumer doubts, spring is here. So nothing says spring like flower and flowing fabrics. Ditzy dresses, so not exclusively floral print, will be trending for picnics in the parks as people take advantage of green spaces in lieu of stores and restaurants. For example, Ditzy dress will increase by 21% this summer. Floral maxi dresses evoke the same idea of the spring and summer, so they are very classical but very popular in our consumers' wishes. Regarding shapes, puff sleeves are in this summer echoing the romantic spring season people seem to manifesting through their clothing. So this trend will be most popular on dresses, but also on tops to give off vernal vibes. And as a symbol of comfort, people are loving oversized fits these days. While a likely result of staying home, this fit still manages to be stylish with flowing, soft, comfortable fabrics. On another side, the sporty trend is widely present in the wishes of consumers. The time of confinement is a time of return to the body and well-being. This trend is directly reflected in the predominance of sportswear and loungewear. Here, the materials are always comfortable and the cuts are technical. We seek well-being and physical performance more than aesthetics. Maybe we could answer the question at the end of the presentation because it's quite hard to present in the same time of answering people. So I keep your questions for the end, no worries. I continue with the activewear. Reflecting on the self-care trends, many are taking care of their mental health through healthy activities. Instagram users and influencers are sharing their activity wear outfits during workouts. We even saw 1 out of 4 hashtag COVID-19 posts related to a healthy lifestyle. So it's a very big trend. Leggings, an active wear staple, will maintain a steady behavior for the next summer season. With that sense of comfort and being active at home, the cycling short is the star item in this period of confinement. As we are getting closer to summer, we forecast an augmentation of 12% growth in the US. People are craving for comfy, cozy, and fluffy fabrics and texture. Teddy textures were always stronger in outwear, and now with the confinement, they are rapidly moving into loungewear. Rib knits, for instance, is expected to grow by 12% in the US this summer versus 2019. Velvet is another comfortable and soft fabric that has become a great choice during the confinement period. According to our analysis, velvet trend will stay steady in Europe and grow by 13% in the US for summer 2020. It is usually its low season, and it's very remarkable to see this kind of fabrics coming up for summer. Particular pieces of clothing are trending as part of this healthy self-care movement. People are looking for clothes that are practical and high quality using soft material. The popularity of track pants is rising, and they appear to be the biggest fashion trend at the moment. It is no joke. Net-a-Porter experienced a 40% growth in general sales of track pants during this first week of COVID-19 lockdown. At Heuritech, we predict a plus 10% growth in Europe versus last year, and a burst in the US by a plus 47%. People are bringing back the classics in this area of confinement, some with a twist. Sweatshirts are trending, perhaps due to the confinement combination of warm, spring weather and the desire for comfort while staying inside. Equally, sweatshirts are thriving in the US with an augmentation of 9% versus last summer, and while flat in Europe, they remain a reliable core product to collection. These pieces are popular in neutral color like grays and soft pastel, as we said before. This is a snapshot of trends we selected today for this webinar, but all of the trends are available on the platform. And if you are interested, please get in touch. I will give the stage to my colleague Celia to conclude this webinar.
Thank you, Julie. Now that you've seen some of our trends, you may be asking yourself, how do our clients use Heuritech during COVID-19? Our platform enables you to deal with overstock by pushing forward the products with high demand at the right time and by comparing your stock to demand. Time to market is, of course, essential during COVID-19, especially with the right seasonality of current and incoming collections, as well as markdown. Online marketing, which is now more important than ever, is vital to tailor the right message based on social media behavior and to be very reactive to product timing by highlighting the seasonal products. Looking ahead for long term, we can make sure to create the best collection for fall/winter 20 by identifying leading trends and create bestsellers. During this time, our platform is here to accompany you the whole time, and we also deliver exclusive reports to support our clients. First, with trends reports on current and future safe bets, and last calls, prints, fabric colors, with trends alerts highlighting changes in behavior. Then market reports with tailored deep dive on topics to understand associated trends and market behaviors, such as loungewear, for example. And finally, consumer behavior to understand how consumers are changing with COVID-19. We are coming to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for listening until now. But before we go, here are a couple of key takeaways. Trend forecasting is increasingly important as consumer behavior and desires are shifting. AI can help brands to optimize overstocks, build better collection, and improve e-commerce sales. Regarding consumer, we see in China, they are more optimistic, displayed by revenge spending and bold fashion trends, while the European and US consumers are more cautious, reflected through minimalist styles and comfortable loungewear and activewear. If you wish to receive the report, as we said, we will be sending it tomorrow, so you can subscribe to our newsletter on our website. And if you have any question, now is the time for you to ask it and for us to answer. Thank you so much for listening.